Hi, we are Black Templar, and this is our build for Week 2, Milestone 1. Currently, we are in the middle of implementing a new movement system since the beginning of Week 2. So at the moment, we have been currently adjusting our scripts and creating new scenes for said movement script. Alright, so let's get started. So this is our level select screen. From here, we have 21 levels to select from. Let's start with level 1. So this one's just a basic introduction to the enemy. So the enemy moves along with the player, and if the player is caught by the enemy, it kills them and the player has to restart. So this is our key function. Basically, if the player, if the exit point is red, the player can no longer get to the point. In order to turn it green, you have to pick up the gold object right here at the pickup and go to the next level. Now this is introducing our block mechanic. Basically, the player can push the block by moving towards it or by pressing the X button and pulling it. So right now, I'm going to use the block to actually block the view of the stationary enemy so that way I can get to the point safely. Now this is our trap feature. This locks the enemy in for a number of steps. Each step the player takes reduces the counter. Once the counter hits 0, the enemy is now free. Now this is the light system. So this point right here, let me show you. It will go on and off whenever the player makes an input. So up, down. So when the player gets caught by the light, the sound will go off and the player will have to restart the level. So now the light doesn't affect the enemy. The light doesn't affect the enemy, it only affects the player. So the enemy cannot get caught by the light. This is a combination of the key, the block, and the enemy mechanic. This also introduces the or shows off the opposite enemy. So if the enemy moves, if you move up, the enemy moves down. If you move down, the enemy moves up. Left is right, right is left, and that's basically how the enemy functions. The opposite enemy functions. Let's just do that. Get this key and get out of here. Alright, this is the slider mechanic. Basically, there's a platform that the player moves onto. It'll move them to another point, and they can get to the exit safely. Now, the slider also functions as an elevator, so it can move the player up and down. The minimap is meant to change based off of what floor the player is on. It shows off the next floor and what's on top of it, which in this case is the exit point. Alright. Now, this is meant to be the introduction to the opposite enemy, since it shows off both the regular enemy right over here and the opposite enemy right here. And the player's job is to get to the point safely without getting caught by either. Now, this is a twist on the slider. The slider can be affected by enemies, which is meant to bring a new level of, meant to be a twist. So that way you have to move the enemy to that point and safely avoid them in order to get back onto the slider and exit the level. Same thing with the elevator. The enemy can affect it, move it down, get the enemy off safely, and then the player just has to get on and get to the exit. Now this is another twist of mechanics, this one featuring the opposite enemy, the regular enemy, the key, and the point light. This one being a more challenging version of the block. Basically get the enemy out of there, back to the start point, drag the block out the way, and safely reach the exit. Now this introduces the locked door mechanic. See, with the player right here, the player cannot, with the wall right here, with the wall right here, the player cannot get to the exit point, no matter what you press. So the key is to get the player and the enemy both on these appropriate spots, indicated by the color on the bottom. However, if the player or the enemy is the only one on the spot and the other one isn't, that character will have their movement script turned off and they are no longer able to move until either one of them moves out of the way. Once they're both on it, the wall is destroyed and the player can escape. This is a combination of the box mechanic and the opposite enemy mechanic along with the spotlight. It's meant to be a more practice, or I guess in this case mastery. So here, let's do this. There's a good chance to show off what the player can do with the boxes actually. The player can knock out the enemy with the boxes in order to safely get to the point and move through them. However, the box is destroyed afterwards, so if you need a box to block out an enemy's sight, do be warned that if you do knock them out, the box is no longer there. So just for time's sake, I'm going to hit the debug menu by pressing M. I'm just going to warp around this map, and I'm just going to quickly finish this, so that way we can move on to the next level. Get both the keys. And then get to the exit point. Oh yeah, if the player moves onto the exit point and the light is on, they will still be killed. So, yeah, let's try that again. There we go. Get it. I'm just gonna steal this real quick. Get the enemy off there. And then now this introduces the teleporters. So how the teleporters work is you have a teleporter and you have a receiver. They are indicated by the colors. So green connects to green, blue connects to blue, and the receiver is square while the teleporter is circular. So I'll show you what I mean. When the player steps on the teleporter, it warps them to the appropriate receiver, and the enemies can also be teleported along with the player. So there we go. Now, this is meant to be an introduction to the box attack mechanic, so knock them out. And yeah, let's just, now there is a small bug with this level. Unfortunately, the teleporter isn't functioning properly. I think it's due to a reference. I think the to and from points weren't placed properly. That's my bad. So let's just see, maybe I'm wrong. Nope, the teleporter is not functioning. So I'm going to write that down in the bug list, and we're just going to warp our way. Now this level introduces the spiked block mechanic, so let me just move him out the way. Now the spiked block, the player cannot push or pull from that side with the spikes. They can only push and pull from the safe sides. So the block can still be pushed just at specific sides. I'm just going to... Now this is a mixture of the spot and teleporter mechanic along with the key mechanic. So the player has to get this pink guy and this blue guy, the player and the enemy, to the appropriate spots while also grabbing this key in order to get to the exit safely. It's kind of a twist because initially the player believes that it's best to bring the pink guy first and then go to the area next to it. However, this does cause an issue. I'll show you in a minute. With this red guy still down here, the player can't really get to the point safely, or the key safely. So it causes a big issue. So I'm just going to reset. Or not, it doesn't cause an issue. It's meant to be, it's meant to trick the player into believing that the pink guy, the key enemy, should be teleported first, when in reality it's meant to be the red guy, the regular enemy. So let me just reset. See, now I can get this key safely, and then I can move the enemy to the spot. And there you have it. That's our build. Thank you for your time. Again, we are implementing a new movement system script, and we'll have those levels ready by next build. Thank you for your time.